My name is Martin Schmidt. I work for a company called Freudenberg Home and Cleaning Solutions, and I'm the Global Director of Digital Advisory. That means my mission is to improve the digital competencies of our employees. We learned already back in 2018 that most successful cyber attacks start with phishing. At that point, we really had our infrastructure in place that prevented most of these things, but the missing link was still a human element. That's why we had to concentrate on that one as well. So my team is constantly working to educate people to be better workers in the digital workplace. That involves all sorts of tools we are using, like Office 365, any ERP systems we're using, but also behavior like personal productivity, like how to work with digital information without being overwhelmed by it. So of course, we're living in a completely different workplace and even world compared to 20 years ago. That's without a question. So when we started working 20 years ago, we had to take 5 decisions a day, right? And we have the mail coming in once a day. Now it's every 2 seconds. So we are working in a completely different environment with lots of information overload, or at least the risk of being overloaded by information. And that has to do with your digital competencies, how to work in such an environment without being overloaded and to get the right things done. Of course, our organization is impacted by cybercrime, and we have been victims of successful scams. That, of course, doesn't mean that we have been hacked, but there is things like hacking in the supply chain, and that how it often took place, like business email compromise from one of our vendors, for instance, which then led to a false payment, for instance. These are the typical scenarios. Even if you are completely prepped in terms of infrastructure, it still can hit you through the human element, which is coming in from the outside, like your vendors, your customers. So our main goal was to ensure that the learning could be efficient, right? In a world where everybody's overwhelmed with information and doesn't really have the capacity to learn, even the motivation to learn, it is important that you have a good concept how to bring knowledge to the people and that they actually consume it and learn it and internalize it. I like a lot of things about SoSafe, but one of the important points for me was the customer success representative who helped us really to onboard and to roll out the program very quickly, just in a matter of a few weeks, which would not be possible without advice. If you're a technology expert, you could fall into the trap that you think you know all the trends and you know all the phishing tricks, and you are probably putting together some templates yourself, but you could be completely wrong. So here SoSafe is monitoring the markets, and they give us new templates very often, following the trends. So I think you should leave it to the expert to design these templates, which is of course a big win. I mean, long-term learning of course means to keep it on the top of minds of people, because the ordinary people, our average user, they do have their daily job. They're not cybersecurity experts. So first of all, we had, of course, a big feedback because everybody was affected and almost everybody got caught at least once. Even our infrastructure experts sometimes click on a training mail, and they came to me. So I got lots of feedback, mostly positive. So the first thing we had was a massive discussion going on within the company on the shop floor level between employees about this program and how they fell for it or not. We went from over 20% down all the way to 3.5% in just 18 months. I think that is already a big achievement. We were trying to give them a constant stream of challenges. Not too many, 1 per month we took, and but everybody was challenged. And now over 3 years, they will receive 36 challenges. So there's nobody who could disconnect from this topic. They will be forced to deal with it. So that was certainly an element of this long-term effectiveness that was essential. Well, continuous learning, I mean, that's at the heart of my job and my mission here. We have an ever-changing ecosystem. As I said, 20 years ago, we were in a completely different climate. Today, we have so many changes coming at us, many out of our control, that we just have to be more agile and need to adapt to new situations almost every day. If I just see my job, it has changed so many ways over the last 10 years. So if you stop learning, you will be not successful very soon. So learning agility is at the heart of being a digital native and a successful business person in the 21st century. If you are under constant stream of information and you're probably overloaded in many cases, it's very hard for you to learn and to carve out this half an hour or 1 hour to keep learning. So in our current work environment, it must be a duty really to carve out and to really reserve space for learning. Now, this is a personal productivity item not everybody's capable of. So the other way around is to cut learning into very small pieces, micro-learning, and just present it, for instance, at the point of failure, which then makes clear that the motivation is very high to learn. So give it in 5-minute slices and it will fit into a very busy workday. Failure ensures that there is high motivation to learn. Everybody wants to learn from their mistakes. So that means in a climate where it's hard to bring people to learn, using that momentum is quite clever, I would say. The nice thing is that as everybody gets these templates and is challenged, everybody understands. You don't have to communicate widely how it works. Everybody will experience it and might fall for it. But then, of course, we're taking metrics like the click rate, which is here the most important metric, but also the interaction rate for those templates where you have to leave credentials, which is another mistake you could make. And of course, we take all these metrics and try to make sense of it. Thanks to the phishing training we ran with SoSafe, we were able to lower our initial click rate, overall click rate, from over 20% to almost 3% over the course of 18 months. I think that is, for alone, a good achievement. That's why we raised the bar, because going lower than 3% doesn't motivate anybody anymore. You have to step up and make it more challenging for everyone. But that's the real threat, right? The real threats are more challenging than just the average phishing template. So why is it important to have a phishing reporting button? The most important part is positive reinforcement. The people who are acting correctly by spotting the mail and deleting it will never get a feedback if they have actually spotted a training mail or not. They're never sure. With the phishing reporting plugin, they get instant feedback if this was a training mail, and they get praise, and they also get the access to the hints in case they still want to learn. So the analytics dashboard is quite intuitive. It presents you with the most important KPIs, like how many mails have been sent, how many are open, the time frames, of course, looking at the graphs over time, like how is the click rate developing over time? Are there any specific peaks on specific dates? Of course, overall click rate, interaction rate, reporting rate, these are all very important metrics for us, and they're all presented. Another important factor in the metrics is for us that we can compare side by side the performance of certain groups. So in our case, we measure performance location by location, which brings us into the nice area of competition and gamification. So when we're talking to our customer success representative, we of course looked at the metrics, and after each wave, we decided what to do next based on the outcome of the previous wave. Like, can we introduce another difficulty? Are we running maybe different topics in the templates? Do we have to try harder, or maybe make it easier at times to generate some positive feedback? Well, the learning pages are really the place where the learning happens. There is no interaction between consultants or advisors with the users. The users have to digest and learn from the pages. That's why the right amount of detail, but not too much detail, and very actionable advice is so essential for writing good learning pages. And I think writing good learning pages and the right text is an art form. So when you share the results, and certainly when you do it as a part of a competition, you should definitely avoid a negative spin, and you should avoid blaming low performers. Why is that? You want people to report freely once they made a mistake. Just in case it's a real fish, you want people to report, oh, I clicked on this, that was wrong, I know. Because it's so important for IT to have a correct emergency response in this case. If you start blaming and people cannot feel free of retribution, they will not open up, and you will miss these critical points that you need to respond properly. So the main reasons for recommending SoSafe, I think you have a great team. It's a young, energetic and motivated team. I think you were also one of the first companies to identify this topic, not just from a technical angle, but also from a psychological angle, which I think is key here, because we're talking about human behavior. We're not talking about setting up another infrastructure system. Also, I think the privacy by design approach is quite important, which was a unique selling proposition at that point. I didn't find that in the competition, mostly abroad or American. We as Germans, or our company as a German headquartered company, is of course quite sensitive. Well, I would tell them, yeah, if you were looking for a good solution to improve your cybersecurity awareness that works without running massive campaigns, quickly rolling out into the field, also effective long term, go for it. It's worth the money. And I think the competition is also expensive. It's a big step from coming from a toolbox approach to a fully serviced approach. And for me as a customer, that was key. And I think that also should be the case for many others. Well, I'm a happy customer of SoSafe. We are now with you for almost 3 years. Yes, we had 2 customer sales representatives during the time. You are a quickly growing company with lots of new people and young people. But so far, all the people I met made a great job. I'm quite happy and looking forward to continue that journey.